Well, it's everyone knows our guest today. The Holiday name is just synonymous with Oklahoma State baseball and college baseball. A neat thing we're going to do is have Pickens. Are you a guest or are you a member? Okay. Exactly. It has nothing to do with attendance. So anyway, Greg, come on up here. Greg was gracious enough. We're going to have an auction here, and we're going to auction off the game that was mentioned, the 27th of March against Kansas State, and then we'll go from there. If there's still some demand, I think we've got some other things we might can do with that. So
yeah, absolutely.
why don't you go ahead and start.
Chris, tell them exactly what we're selling first, so they'll kind of know. I know, you know what I'm saying.
Well, you mean when I just said the March 27th game?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's involved in that?
Well, you're going to get a corral.
See,
that
people want to know.
Okay, holds 10 people and then 4 tickets upstairs, correct? And scoreboard, sign ball, photograph.
It wasn't hard.
Thanks, bud.
This is March 27th, and I'm a 1983 State Farmer. So you guys don't do the math, but they've got it even way back then. So congratulations. We're glad to have you guys with us. You bet. Hey, on the wheel. Thank you, Coach Holliday. We appreciate you. Here we go, guys. Everybody clear on what we're selling? March 27th. Dale, you're going to have to round up some more friends. But no, I'm kidding you. But I'll go with you. Here we go. 500, 6, 5, I'm going to get it 700. I'm going to get it 7. I'm going to get it 8 to 9. 8, I'm going to get it 900. I'm going to get it 1,000. I'm going to get 1,100. 11, now 12. I'm going to get 12. I'm going to get it 12. I'm going to get it 12. 12, 13. I'm going to get it 13. 13 to 4. I'm going to get it 14. 15. Get it 15. 15. Get it 15. 16. I'm at 15. Over here. Don't let those two have all the fun. I'm at 15. I'm going to do 16. 15. 16. I'm going to get it 16. 15. Get it 16. 16. 100. 1,600. Oh, new fire. 17, 16, 17. Are you bidding, Richard? I'm gonna get it. Man, I make more money off people like you wouldn't believe. And get it and sell. I got it behind this time, Pat. 17, 18, so 118 to 19. 1900, I'm gonna do 19. I'm at 18, get it 19, get it back in, get it 19. 100, 1,900. I sold it to you. $1,800. Give them a big round of applause. And I have got some great news. Pat, you didn't win, but you were runner-up. And guess what? Yes, sir. Whoop, whoop. We got to stick with the date. Is that, man? Give him another round of applause. Hey, you bet. Man, appreciate you. All right. Pat, I've got some great news for you, my friend. On April the 10th, we could let you have the same thing for the April the 10th. Who we playing that day, Coach? If you don't mind. Central Arkansas? Okay. Says you. Central Arkansas. Oh, there it is. Thank you, guys. For the same money, or we can go again. Up to you. April the 10th. Saturday, April 10th. You want to match that or you want to start it again? Thank you, Pat Zimmerman. You bet. Thank you. We appreciate both of you very, very much. Hey, great news. How we doing so far, Chris? All right. Hey, good news. The day after that, on Sunday, April 11th, see, I can even do that kind of math, guy. Central Arkansas, again, we can do it again for the same money, or we can go again. Good with that, Chris? Here we go. 5, 600. I'm going to get it in 6, 7. Get it in 7. Central Arkansas, Sunday, April 11th. Get it in 7. Hey, get it 8, 9. I'm going to get it 900. I'm going to get it 1,000. I'm going to get it 11,000. 900. Get it in 1. Get it in 1. Get it in 1,000. Anybody? I'm going to get it in 1,000. Yes. Thank God you showed up when you did. Now 1,100, 1,000, I'm going to 11. I'm at 1,000, I'm going to 1,100, 1,000, get it 11. I'm at 1,000. I'm with Scott. Got to be 1,100, 1,000, get 1,100. Scott, would you give any more? Just got to ask. sold it to him. $1,000, Scott Simmons Bank. We appreciate you, buddy. Hey, I'm out of slots. All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. My pleasure. Here you go, Coach.
Are you guys all right with me taking my mask off? They kind of bother my nose when I talk. Hey, thanks, guys. That's nice. The idea of trying to auction those games off, I think Josh got ready to take off and, his first trip and everything. And some of the COVID rules jacked up their budget a little bit. So, we just kind of came up with the idea of through Learfield of trying to sell every game for $1,000. And you guys just wiped it out. So thank you. Now, Chris wanted me to come talk to you about baseball, which I got no problem with that. And he said, just go all the way back. Well, that's a long ways back. And I go back to 77. How many of you guys were here in 77? I don't know if you ever drove by where the field was. When Chet Bryan was let go, he ordered dirt and a bunch of it. And they came and they brought it and they dumped it on the infield. And Coach Ward called me about May 15th and asked me to come with him. So I said, sure. So as soon as I could get the baby on the road, which was Josh, we came back and I had a hard time finding the field because I'd never seen anything like what I saw. And so when we pulled up, it was about 105 degrees and the weeds were at least 6 feet high, at least. So we called him at a payphone and said, Coach, you said the baseball field was down the street from the basketball arena. There's no baseball field down here. And he's like, oh yeah, there is, right next to the dorm. And I said, Coach, there's a weed field here. And he's like, no, that's our field. And I said, oh, really? And we had just won the national title at Arizona State. And, when you win a national title, you're important for 2 or 3 days. And so it was like, okay, so what do we do? He goes, well, we're going to start practice first day of school. So get the field ready. Now, I'd never done any of that. I grew up in Pennsylvania, but I never had to pull weeds with both hands and, have stickers in me from doing it. And it was one tremendous experience. And we continued to do it for a while. And anyhow, the field, I think, was something park. I don't know, University Park. And, we just had fun doing it. And we got ready to go to Omaha in 81. And Coach said, we got to go up here and win. And I said, well, why not? Why would we go up there to lose? And he's like, no, I just said that, when we come back, we better have a new field. And I said, wait a minute, Coach, I got a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, what are we talking about? He goes, well, we're going somewhere else. I said, no, we're not. We're not. And so we won, we came back and Dick Young said, believe it or not, I got $1.4 million and you guys are going to have a baseball field. So we did, and it was beautiful. And 40 years later, you go over there now and you see the thing that's on the corner, and it's breathtaking. And I know that with COVID they haven't opened it up for tours yet, but the first chance that you get, go see it. And I know that when you go to a game, you see from the view from the ballpark, it's beautiful. Going underneath, it's just remarkable. And the planning, going around the country and looking at ballparks, Coach Holder and Josh, man, they just didn't ignore anything. And I think it ended up being somewhere in the $65-70 million range. And it'll probably be the last ballpark ever built in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And I would be shocked if it falls apart, so as soon as we get the COVID thing out of our system, you got to go. And we can jump in one of those corrals. I think that's a fun thing, a new element. And to talk about club seats and suites for baseball here kind of like shocks me. You know, it's like a suite was just finding a seat in Alley P. And so the environment is awesome. And, you know, to boot, and again, things happen in funny ways, but when they banged the season last year after 14 or 15 games, 200 schools ran around the country saying that they were going to win the national championship. And you know what? They may have. And a lot of schools just kind of felt it was their chance to say they had the best team in the country. Well, you're not going to find that out. So the NCAA gave all those players another year of eligibility. They gave the year back. And Major League Baseball shrank the draft down to 5 rounds. So when they did that, a lot of guys didn't get a chance to leave. And your normal good ball clubs, the juniors leave, you know, in the draft. And or if they come back for their senior year, it's because they didn't get enough money to skip their last year of school. A lot of them didn't have a choice. So you get all those players back. And then Josh had, you know, I think it was rated the second best recruiting class in America coming in. So you got all these new young puppies that are really, really good. And you get all those older guys like Cabanis and Parker Scott back. And I mean, it's a really, really good baseball team. And everybody always wants to compare teams, and that's not fair. But when you go back to the role of Ventura and you know, Pete, then Ventura, then Burnett's, you know, and all those things, you know, you live back there, but you know, it's time to go forward. And I really believe this, that there could be 8 guys on this year's team that'll play in the big leagues. And I mean, that's kind of the ultimate gauge for how you're doing. And you know, who are they? Well, I can give that to you as long as Chris tells me to keep talking. But it's a really talented team. And you know, I've kind of been around college baseball now for about 45 years. And you know, it's just kind of cool that maybe, just maybe, if the pandemic kind of comes to an end here, that we might open that thing up and have a full house before the year's over. It'd be kind of fun to see that, because I think the kids that are there, a lot of them came because of the stadium being built. And it's a heck of a thing to say, you know, because in recruiting, it's not just stadiums or palm trees. You know, it's coaches, it's school, you know, it's the environment that you sell. It's the whole package. But I mean, let's face it, the college baseball world shifted into the Southeastern Conference. They came up with their own television network, et cetera. And kids all want to go to Southeastern Conference. Well, I can tell you this, in the last 2 years, after listening to Josh and Matt sit around talking, they're into that pocket. They're getting those guys now. And I think Oklahoma has probably had the best run on talent the last 2 or 3 years in high school ever. And when I got here, there was 5 guys in the state that we would all recruit, and we would get 1 or 2, and Wichita State would get 1, OU would get 1. And at that time, Oral Roberts was a powerhouse. They'd get 1. So, you know, we'd split it up. Everybody get 1. Well, I think that right now there's 10 or 12 guys that are big time Division I players in the state of Oklahoma every year. And, you know, Josh is getting his share of them. You know, he's pulling in 5 or 6. And so now with the addition of the ability to go around the country and get some of these kids out of Florida, and we've always been good in California. Now the kids in Texas all want to come up here. And that's kind of weird, because, you know, the baseball in Texas right now with TCU and Texas Tech jumping up. And I mean, UT's kind of like in the 3-hole down in Texas. So the kids down there want to come up here, and ballparks will do that. And they'll reap the benefit of having that new stadium over the next couple of years. So again, to tell you to follow Cowboy baseball, you know, the rest of the way, I would. I think they're pretty good. And sometimes you make a monkey into a gorilla. I think we got a shot at a national title this year. I really do. And I know none of you will repeat that when you leave here, because my kid will get mad at me. But Scott, you got a final score?
Yeah, folks held on 72-69.
Okay. So we won our basketball game. Okay. So anyway, in 77, when I saw the dirt and we cleaned it and we got into Alley P and yeah, we had a pretty good run of success. And then you look up now and it's like years and years ago. And yet it's still the same, you know, it's still the safest town in America. You know, I say that because I've been around the world. And Matt kind of sorry about that, but I've been around the world the last 15 years, and I get a chance to watch my little one play baseball, you know, all over the place. New York, St. Louis, Colorado. And then you sit there and you say, what the hell am I doing in Stillwater? And it's just kind of a weird deal, but you know, this is where we raised them. And now I'm watching my grandkids here. And it has a lot to do with the people of this town. And I say that, and I think I'm a living proof of that, you know, that there's no safer place to raise kids in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And I think players come here, they feel the genuine people that are around them. They all leave here saying it was a great experience. And, you know, I look down like last year and I see Robin Ventura walking around in a pair of sweatpants. And, you know, you're talking about a guy that played 15 years in the big leagues, managed in the big leagues, college, maybe the greatest college player, if not him, Pete Incaviglia, in the history of college baseball, which I thought was going to be one of the trivia questions, but well, we'd still be arguing which one it was, but I see Robin coming back and there's kind of a strange conversation. He asked us all to, you know, cook dinner. I said, what do you want? He said, what you always do. I said, okay. So I made some meatballs, and I don't know how to cook anything but Italian food anyway, but so we had dinner, and you know, he threw it out there that he wanted to come back and help coach, you know, and I was like, are you kidding me? You know, are you serious? He said, I'm dead serious. I mean, I don't know. One of you guys can Google it. Robin probably made maybe 100 million, 150 million in his career. And he wanted to come back here and coach, you know, and you look down there and it's the same guy that came here, you know, to school when he was 18 years old, having fun, monkeying around with the players. And so the question is, you know, when you get him in a quiet moment is, well, why are you doing this? And he goes, because it's the only place that I've ever felt comfortable, you know. And Robin's, what, Scott, you probably aging 53, 54. And, you know, he's lived in some of the nicest cities in America, in Chicago. And of course, that's not the nicest city in America, but it's pretty good baseball state, you know, so it's kind of obvious that there's an attraction here. And, you know, now he's finishing his degree, which is it's a beautiful thing. It's kind of strange again. I know he said his favorite class was wine tasting, which they didn't have that class when I was working here, but yeah. And so I'm not sure what he's getting his degree in, you know, but anyway, the whole thing it's a pretty neat show right now. And again, you know, talking to guys like you, most of you are diehards, you know, for anything that we put on the court or on the field. And you know, I appreciate you having me here, and you know, I can talk to you forever.
It appears that pitching is the real strength of this team. Could you expound a little bit on the arms that we have?
Well, it kind of starts with a kid named Parker Scott, who came back, and again, you know, just a really cool mom and dad. And Parker had surgery on his arm, and pro scouts got turned off. He's a little guy. He's like 6 foot. And so when he got healthy, he started pitching good. And I took him to Cape Cod, and he pitched real good for me in Cape Cod. He had 27 straight innings without a run. And the Angels tried to sign him, and they offered him 175 grand. And He said no. They started chirping away at him about his surgery, so they got it down to about 100 1/4. So he came back, and you get a guy like that back. I mean, that's a bonus, and he might be the best left-hand pitcher in college baseball. And so, boom, that's a bonus. He's 23 years old. He's been through everything, and then you get the guys that were recruited last year, Osmond and Cale Davis, and a handful of kids. The Osmond kid turned down $1.5 million to come to school, which is borderline crazy. But again, his dad went to school here. His dad said he was going to get an education. The kid didn't have any trouble at all turning it down. But you get Osmond, and this year they had a kid named Robleski, a left-hander that started at Clemson, went to a JUCO and came in, and he's legitimately 95, 96 with a power breaking ball, which I think he'll pitch in the big leagues with it. So, that's just your starters. And then because of the draft being a 5-round draft, they got a kid out of Asher named Trevor Martin. He's like 6'5", 250 pounds. He looks like a major leaguer in a college uniform. And I mean, he has plus stuff. And then the Stanley kid that has been struggling. It's been a struggle for him to get over the hump. He's been good, bad, and that happens. But being forced into a senior year, you're seeing why we always fought for kids not to sign as juniors, because he's found it. And so Rob's using him as a closer, probably could be a starter, but they don't need him. And the guy that's pitching on Tuesdays hasn't given up a run yet, Campbell. And so now, and it was an interesting semi-argument last night in the living room, was like, so what are you going to do with Campbell? You're going to put him in a bullpen on the weekend. Why? Just win all 4 every week. You don't need to tinker with something that's not broken. So, and they got a kid in the bullpen named Cable that throws 98. And if you watch him throw, you could right now change uniforms and you go do what they're doing in the big leagues. Just throw it hard and don't worry about it, because everybody's into velocity. But the mix of power arms and pitchers, and Rob's problem is trying to keep them all happy. That's of course, that's Josh's strength. But I think for Rob to get innings for guys, there's some guys that won't get a lot of innings are going to get drafted. And so again, enjoy it, because, very seldom do you have this many arms. And never say you have too many arms. Kind of a tip.
I know I've heard you talk about, players that we got because coming out of high school, they might have been drafted in the top 10 rounds, but there was only 5 rounds. I think there's a couple of kids in this year's recruiting class that could go in those top 10 rounds. Do we think we've got any chance of them coming here, or are those kind of kids, but if they get drafted, are they going to sign?
Well, the thing that's kind of changed in college baseball is right now there's 150 guys in the country that think they're going in the first round. And it's because of the magazines. It's because of the internet world. There's 6 rankings right now of college baseball. There's just more attention to college baseball. So out of that 150, you want to keep feeding it. You want to keep telling your guys, yeah, you're a first rounder, because when they don't go in the first round, they get let down. And you just want to make sure you have your guys on the letdown. And yeah, Josh has 2. There's 2 of them. There's a boy in Florida that's outstanding. He's been playing with Jackson, Matt's oldest son, and he's a borderline first round draft. And there's a boy in California, same thing, borderline first round draft. And they watch everything. When the games are on television, they just sit there, and it's a new way of holding on to them. And Josh is really good at that. Of course, this little thing called Twitter and all that, we never use that kind of stuff, but now there's ways of communicating with them on a daily basis. We had to call them once a week and keep those rules, but no, there's some more coming. And the draft went to 20 rounds. So there's no guarantee you're going to lose all the juniors anymore. You've got to play and you got to pitch to go in the first 20 rounds. 20 sounds like a lot. That's still not a lot. That's half of what it was 2 years ago. It was 40.
You see 2 years ago, the majors, 38% of the balls, or 38% of the at-bats, the ball's not, they would strike out, home run, walk.
Yeah.
Are we gonna get back to someday singles, doubles, less strikeouts?
Well, Chris, the only way I can tell you, you guys all remember when we had to start wearing bell-bottom jeans? You had no choice, right? You had to go buy a pair if you'd rather wear them straight-legged. That's what you got going on. It's a fad. I mean, right now to think that you could possibly strike out and have somebody in the dugout tell you, hey, man, good at bat. And you're sitting there going, what'd you say? Yeah, good at bat for striking out. Well, the home run thing has become big. So to hit home runs, they've changed swings. When you have a little boy and you play ball with him, you try to tell him quit swinging up, try to swing level. Well, now it is okay, swing up. You know, it's no more swing level unless you go and watch Matt and Robin work with them. And that's what's going to happen. You're going to have people that are going to say, hey, I'm tired of you striking out 7 out of 10 times and hitting 2 home runs and a double. You know, of course, that's 300, but they're not doing that. They're not hitting 300. And the game has shifted to 240 is acceptable in the big leagues as long as you're hitting home runs. And strikeouts are an all-time high all over the place. And I know it drives Josh crazy. And again, the punishment of the internet world. You know, if it's on there that it's okay, these kids, they see that, they read it, they come to the yard. First day of practice in the fall, you know, I went out and sat there, and between Encarnacion and McLean and Cabanas, they were hitting balls out of the new stadium, not over the fence. They were hitting them out of the stadium. And you know, you're sitting there going, that's what Pete used to do, you know, and you haven't seen much of that. But these kids are so big and strong, and it's just a thing. I mean, they're paying for home runs. They're paying for pitchers to throw 98, whether they, you know, can throw strike. Relief pitching is making a ton of money right now because they think that's the only thing that throw it through that loop. So people want guys that throw high to get it through that power loop, that uppercut type swing. But I think it's going to come back, and you just got to let it take its course, you know, and it will, because quite frankly, you know, baseball is not broken, and it's still a game for kids, you know, screwed up by adults. Do what? He has a groin injury, and you have to let that heal. And they're trying to stay patient with that until they get into conference play. And, you know, to stay away from Vanderbilt. I mean, you guys don't know, but this might be the biggest series in college baseball this weekend. And there's like 250 scouts flying in from all over the country to see. The top 2 guys for Vanderbilt could be the first pick and the second pick in this draft. They're that good. I mean, you want to get to those first 2 games. Of course, I don't know what Mother Nature is going to do, but yeah, they're both pitchers, and one of them should have been in this uniform. But Rocker's daddy played in the NFL, and he's a big, strong guy. He pitched a national title game as a true freshman, and he's special, you know. And then you just have to watch, you know, Parker Scott, you know, and him. That'll be, that's a David and Goliath. I mean, I just can't wait for that one. And then their 2-hole guy is a kid named Leiter. And for you guys who were here, you know, and followed us, we had his uncle, Kurt, and we signed the next brother, Mark, and Mark signed out of Connors. We had him there because he wasn't a good student, and he ended up signing pro before he got here. And then Al Leiter was the 3rd Leiter. And when his son came out, you know, we were kind of teasingly away. There's no doubt he's going to come to Oklahoma State. Well, Josh and Corbs are pretty good friends at Vanderbilt, so that came right down to the wire, but they got him. And he's really good. He's a 94, 95. He's a right-hand version of what Parker Scott does. He can pitch. So the first 2 games will be electric, you know, when those 2 guys throw. You know, and, you know, you asked me about this year's team, you know, some of the new guys. They have a guy named McLean that you want to see. And you know, after watching him, he's from North Carolina, and believe it or not, he was the quarterback of the year. He was the Gatorade quarterback of the year in the Carolinas. And because Josh signed him, Mike had to switch him over to football if he wanted to use him this year. And Mike went ahead and redshirted him because he had quarterbacks. But Nolan McLean is a special athlete. And when you watch him, now he turned down $1.5 million, you know, to come to school. And to bring a guy from home that far away here, you watch him and you think, this kid's got a tough decision to make. He's 95 to 97 on the mound, and he's a right-handed Robin Ventura with the bat. He's the third baseman, but the third baseman was the junior college player of the year last year. So Encarnacion's playing third, Nolan just floating around doing whatever because he likes to hit. But Nolan McLean is a special guy. And as soon as the weather clears up, you know, and again, you know, how many arms can you have and keep them all happy? And, you know, the question more or less is going to come down to next year in football, you know, what happens there in the quarterback derby. And they got a little outfielder from Edmond, a kid named Dom Johnson, that is he reminds you of Mookie Betts if you watch him. I mean, he's 5'9", maybe 5'8.5". They do grow the better they do, you know, before you know, they'll be 6'1", but he's a unique little guy with a lot of power, can really, really run. And his throwing is a little bit off. It's going to have to get better, you know, but right now he's a center fielder. We might have the best center fielder in college baseball, and a kid named Trinkle, which you don't know much about because he only played 14 games last year as a freshman. And, you know, am I throwing these terms around loosely? I'm not, you know, because Trinkle's going to play for Team USA this summer. So that's how good they are in center. And the guy in right field, Cabanis, has the best tool set that maybe of any guy that's ever put a uniform on at Oklahoma State. I mean, tool set being, he has the best arm ever. We never had a guy throw like Cade Cabanis. And he can run. I mean, he's 6'4", 240. He runs like a 6'5", 60, which is, you know, major league plus. And when he hits it, that's the problem. The word's got to change from when he hits it, which is what Chris said, you know, is the strikeout thing acceptable? Well, Cabby has accepted the strikeout thing, and he shouldn't, because that's the only reason he's still in school. But he is without a doubt. He's a Dave Parker. And, you know, you just, when you see it, you have to compare it, because that's all you do in baseball. But some of the young kids are really, really good. And I think the timing is right. You know, you open a new stadium, you'd like to have great ball clubs, and you know, they're there. And now it's just like, you know, you don't just have to win the conference, you know, you just go win a national title. Well, that's easy to say, and it's hard to do, because the playoff system right now, guys, in college baseball is real. You know, you win a regional, then you got to win a super regional. Then when you get to Omaha, the 8 teams in Omaha now, they're the best. The playoff system, you don't get there by accident. And go back into the 80s when we get there, we always knew when we got there that we wanted Maine. You know, it was like an argument. Like, you know, we want to open with Maine. You can't. Well, they didn't even rank us in those days. It was just a committee that would just jockey and put you 1 through 8. So you go in there and 1 played 8. You know, that whoever got number 1 got Maine. So you knew you had the first game in the bag. Well, not like that anymore. You know, the College World Series is a true World Series. It's a real thing. Chris?
We're talking about right fielders, and if my memory's right, didn't Darryl Strawberry sign with us?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll never forget that one.
There's a story.
Yeah, there's a story there. Yeah. When I signed Darryl Strawberry in his living room, I asked his mom if I could go to the bathroom. She told me where it was. And I took the first step to go upstairs. My foot went right through the steps. And I was like, uh-oh. the question was, how do I get my foot out? And everybody heard me go through, and they just didn't even think to tell me to step around it. But they had no money. And that normally means just get out of here. You have no shot. They'll take the money. So after about 2 hours, Mrs. Strawberry just said, you know what? He's going to school. I trust you. He's coming there. And so, I'm sitting there going, okay, it's worthwhile. And I walked out to leave, and there were like 7 or 8 limousines parked on the street, and they were all agents waiting to go in the house, which was against the rules. And I'm starting to get on the steps. I turned around, I came back. I said, "Dude, you let any one of those people in the house, this is all over." And I had to explain the rules about that. And then all of a sudden you saw the older brother go and start knocking on windows and telling them to get out of here. And so the draft happened a couple of days later, and quite frankly, the Mets were really mad at Tom Holliday. And I don't know why why it had to be me. I didn't tell the world that we had signed him, and they kind of got ambushed. But they said he would be the next Dave Parker, and they were going to give him a whooping 50 grand. And I just said, hey, they're taking advantage of you. That doesn't work. That's wrong. Come to school. And Paul Hansen was our basketball coach, and I called Paul and said, I spent 15 minutes watching him play basketball. He can play for us. And so when he came on his visit, he went up there and played hoops, during his lunch break. And Coach Hansen called and said, he's on a basketball scholarship. Save your money. And I was like, yeah, heck yeah, I'll do that. And it took a month, and the Mets were mad at us. And the guy that drafted him ran around. I thought he and I were going to end up in a fight somewhere, but he got over it and grew up. And Strawberry went on to be a pretty darn good player, and quite frankly, it really got us into California. The name Oklahoma State, when you went into California, we were there. Yeah, he's a unique guy. Been up and down in the baseball and personal life.
What do you remember about Jim Craig was playing baseball?
Oh boy.
You hear all the time talk about it, stay on the radio. I didn't know what his reputation is.
I don't know, how old is Trabe now? Probably 50 something. Yeah, he's in high 50s. And every time I see him, I want him to pull his pants down so I could spank him. I'd like to take a bat across his rear end. Because Trabe's, his recruitment was pretty easy. I mean, Dave Wanstead and I ganged up on him because he was from Maryland. And, at that time, Jimmy Johnson was just collecting athletes. All Jimmy wanted was the best. He didn't care where they were from. He just wanted the best. And Trabe was really good in baseball. I knew all about him in baseball, but it had to be 2 sports because Trabe wasn't going to go anywhere if he couldn't play both. And so we went back there and we spent time with him. And believe me, his dad would let you know how good Jimmy was. And when we were done with dinner, we both walked out saying, you sure you want him? No, you sure you want him? And I liked Trabe because he was confident. He felt like he could play. And he came here and he was a great student. I mean, he handled both sports. I mean, he'd go do football, he'd come down the street, do baseball, never complained, and I think Jimmy started him sophomore and junior year, half the sophomore year, and then somebody got hurt, and then he started and I think he fumbled on the 1 yard line against Washington here. And yeah, he fumbled a lot. Yeah, little hands. And, but he was a guy that knew the game. And that's why Jimmy Johnson liked him. But after that fumble, I guess Jimmy undressed him in front of the team, and Trabe said, that's it. I'm done with football. Well, no, you're not. You're finishing the season. No, I'm not. Yeah, you are. No, you're not. No, I'm not. It was like, so he did. And then we got him. And one thing about him in baseball, he was probably on that first World Series team in 81. He was our clutch. He was the best clutch hitter we had. And we had some kids, Darren Dilks and Benji De La Rosa and guys like that were good players. But Traber made it happen when the happening was tough. He feared nothing. And, you know, his baseball career for a guy that was a terrible runner, a terrible thrower. You know, we mentioned tools earlier. Trabe only had one tool. He could hit. He couldn't do anything else. He was average first baseman. To make it to the big leagues and play for 4 years, 4+, that's a kind of a minor miracle, but it tells you what he's made out of. I mean, Jimmy Traber was made out of the right stuff as an athlete. He just didn't have the tools that some of these other kids did, you know, and I don't know, you think about it, Robin Ventura wasn't even drafted out of high school. I mean, think about that one, will you? Because you're talking about, you know, a guy that hit 400 3 years in a row in college and then had a really good major league career and is a wonderful person. So, I mean, you know, sometimes that goes by the wayside, but when they come back and you see what they're like, geez, 30 years later, you know, you kind of feel good about it. You know, you feel like you brought some good kids in here. Come on, Mark, you got one for me. You be the closer here. Scotty, you got one for me?
No, man, you're all good. You're all good.
Well, thanks for having me. And hey, thanks for that auction. That's nice. That's nice. That money's going to go back and help take care of some of the extra travel that the team didn't know about. You know, now they got to travel in 3 buses instead of 1 because there are only now 20 guys on a bus. So, you know, that's why we did that auction. But thank you guys. Come out to the ballpark.
All right. Thank you, Coach Holliday.